Hi, and welcome back to MTOP series on the City of Yes Housing Text Amendment. And today we're going to be discussing something that hasn't really been spoken about too often in the media, and that's in the text amendment, but would really have a major effect on where the so-called affordable housing will happen underneath the mandatory inclusionary housing and the UAP. And that is really the legalization of Jim Crow and poor door. So let me go ahead and begin. Eric Adams has been playing the race card in the neighborhood. He's been going into white communities and talking about how they need to make more of a contribution. He made this statement, this is not the Deep South in 1950, Jim Crowism can't exist in our city. He's also talked about how, that people don't like him, not because of his policies and not because of the City of Yes, but because he's just Black. So he's been using the race card. And this is also happens quite often, right? When you have developers, for example, in my community, there are some developers who are Jewish, right? And then the moment that you criticize the development project, like the one that was supposed to do a serious destruction of the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens, you're doing it because you're anti-Semitic, which has nothing to do with it, right? It's just the fact that you're building a building that's about to destroy a public green space. So this use of the race card is really being played out on the political field. But what's amazing about that is that the text amendments, if you look at them, are indeed racist and prejudice against Black people and anyone who can afford, who will be qualified for the affordable housing component of them. So let me go ahead and show you exactly where that is within the text amendment. So we might get a little technical here, so just bear with me a little bit and just kind of try to follow me to understand what the law is actually saying. That bottom portion of the screen is the actual text amendment language, and it can sometimes be a little daunting for people who are not familiar with it. So let's understand, if it is a site, if it's called an MIH or UAP site, which is the affordable housing site, that means that's the actual apartments themselves. Where if it's an MIH lot, that's the actual physical lot, the physical location of an MIH or UAP location. And currently, the apartments that are affordable remain on the same lot that has been identified as an affordable lot, or UAP or MIH right now, because UAP is not legal yet. However, underneath the City of Yes proposed text amendment, there now is a provision that allows those two things to be separate. So that means is that the apartments themselves that have the affordability will be in one location. It could be in a location that's not a part of the site, the lot site. So that means is, for example, if a developer wanted to build, on Flatbush Avenue to get those park views along the Prospect Park, he can identify that lot as an affordable housing lot, get all of the additional benefits for that, but the apartments themselves can be all the way down in Utica Avenue, as long as it's within the same district. If it's not within the same district, it could be a half a mile away from the lot that has been identified, the place that has been identified as an affordable unit site, land, and then the apartments themselves. It can be half a mile between. Now, this is very serious, right? Because we're talking about segregation. We're talking about taking affordable housing, units and people who can afford, who are a part of that population, and literally putting them in another part of the community. And we thought that segregation was unlawful. We believe that Brown versus Board of Education decided that separate but equal is a violation of the Constitution, right? But here it is, back again in writing. And what's amazing is that not many elected officials are talking about this provision, which is very serious. So let's go on to the next one. This is the poor door. Now, there was a lot of uproar about 10 years ago when developers were creating affordable housing and separating, literally having separate entrances, so that the people who were living in the affordable units actually lived in another part of the building on a separate floor and had a separate entrance. And some of them were in the alleyways. Now, I'm showing you an example of one of those alleyways, whereas the non-affordable units were in the front. And so the state passed a law that poor doors could not be instituted in the state, including New York City. However, they're back again underneath the City of Yes text amendment. Here, they're basically first saying that there has to be an equal disposition. You have to equally share both, the entrances and the amount of apartments that are on a floor. But then they have an exception to the rule. And that exception is if the affordable housing units are also supportive housing, they can be separated. If they are for independent residences for seniors, they could be separated. If the non-affordable units are mixed with co-ops and condominium apartments, they can be separated. So the poor door is back. The poor door is back. And that's again, disturbing. Not sure how they are looking at the law, looking at the state legislation, looking whether or not they're violating that, but it's definitely being considered underneath the city, the housing text amendment, the new housing text amendment. What was probably the most disturbing thing, however, that we found, besides the fact that, we're now instituting back again Jim Crow and poor door legislation for housing, is that when we were walking, we had a walkthrough, and the city council's urban planners, these are the people who work at the city council, right? City council representatives are not experts in zoning, right? There are 1,300 changes, and they're not going to sit down and read that. And if they did, it would be very complicated. As you can see in the previous frame, the language is very complicated. It requires a lot of education to even understand what's being said. So they rely upon the urban planners that's hired by the city council to interpret what's happening. And yet, while we were walking through the community, and we mentioned, the introduction of the poor door, we mentioned the fact that the affordable housing units under the proposed UAP and the MIH programs would actually be allowed to exist somewhere outside of the lot in which the affordable is being identified. They act like they didn't know. They seem surprised. These are 5 pages of this amendment. How did you miss that? And we were very disturbed about that, because what else did they miss? What else is so important that they purposely missed? Or did they just miss this in communities of color? Because we know that most of the segregation will be based upon race, because it's a fact that people of color are poor in New York City. And so we are concerned about this. And we're concerned about the city council's planners not really disclosing to communities a lot of the things that could negatively happen in those communities, when they do come or when they do advise the city council person about this. So it's an issue. We're asking you to think about it and figure out how are you going to approach your city council person after reading this, right? After understanding that they're about to do some serious segregation and bringing back Poor Door underneath Eric Adams' City of Yes text amendments. Okay, and so who are we? Which is the next slide. We are a community-based grassroots organization that has been in existence for over a decade. We are the first community to stop a district-wide rezoning. We made history when we were able to get a development project overturned once it was certified. And you could reach us at mtopp.org. We have a website. You can look at our YouTube channel. You can review our emails, and you can watch our videos, or you can call 718-703-3086. Again, 718-703-3086. And we are preparing to do a town hall this October 1st, 2024. And we're asking people to come join us. We will have more information at the next video about this town hall, but do save the date, October 1st on a Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Okay, and thank you for watching, and we look forward to talking to you again. Bye.